Hey there YouTube, AJ here. And while I'm waiting to figure out what I'm going to do with my carburetor debacle, I'm going to start in on my wiring because I'm not giving up. It's going to run. So anyway, first thing we're going to do with this wiring, I already made this pigtail here with a new plug on it for the ignition switch to tie into the rest of the harness. So we're going to tie that in first. And that's fairly straightforward. You have 4 wires coming in on the plug from the switch. A red, black, a brown, and a brown with a white stripe. I did not have a brown with white stripe wire, so I'm just using white for that one. That one's going to tie in here. The red and black are pretty straightforward as well. They're going to tie into these. The different one here is this brown wire used to be connected here, and this brown wire would then tie into this one. So since that's a little off there, I'm gonna have to do a couple splices for that one. So I'm gonna get to that, cut and splice these all in. Okay, so I got the brown wire all connected up here. I had to use 3 connectors because I had to splice a short piece in the middle of this run here. I'm going to use a piece of steel to try to shield the rest of the wiring from the heat, but we're going to use a heat gun to melt these connectors together and melt the solder that's within them. Alright, we'll let those cool and then we'll tape them up. Meanwhile, we can move on to the next one, which let's go ahead and wire up this brown and white one to our white one here. Oh, stop. Lost one of our wires. Okay, and I forgot to strip our black one. All right. Well, we got that one a little too hot, I think. Whoop, oh, that's hot. Ow, ow. Melted plastic on my finger. All right. Now, dang, go on, that got hot. Hot. All right, we got one more in this bundle, and that's the red wire. No, not the red wire. Never touch the red wire. Now it's getting hard to shield the wires from getting more heat than they need. Now we should have a wiring harness from our ignition switch to the rest of the bike. Need to do some tidying up with some electrical tape. There's a lot of people who hate wiring. I don't hate it, honestly. It's not fun trying to fix a mess that somebody else made. I mean, I still can't understand why they cut this wiring harness apart the way they did. But, you know, it's got to get fixed one way or the other. So, no use complaining about it. Otherwise, I normally kind of find wiring fun. I don't like working in this hacked up short little pieces. I'm going to save this brown for last because I wish I had ran that underneath, but it is what it is. Let's get this black one. This brown one's going to be a pain because it's starts all the way up here, and then we gotta tie in that one too. All right, now I'm gonna throw some tape around the base of this connector as well, and then we'll be done with this one. You probably really don't need to tape everything up the way I'm taping it up, but I don't know, I'm always paranoid of stuff coming apart. So, there we go. We now have an ignition switch tied into the rest of our wiring harness. Now, I previously put together all of the wiring in the headlight bucket off camera, so that's all together. So, we've worked our way back to this point here. Well, from this point here going backwards, I need to start tying in the reg rec and you know, the starter cable and things like that. So, and then the voltage regulator and the starter relay. So we're going to stop. We're not going to do this middle part. We're going to, before we have to be able to start putting this middle section back together first. So we're going to jump back here to the tail end. Now fortunately back here, it wasn't such a hack job. They left me some of the wiring from this light to here. I got to connect this blue wire and this black wire. That's for the right turn signal. Same thing on the other side. We have the black wire here to this brown wire, and then these two are ground wires for the two turn signals that go to a connector in here. What we really need to do is cut these and put bullets connectors on them so they can go right back into this harness. And that is the bullet connector we need. So I need to get some of these bullet connectors. So we're going to start with these two grounds since they seem to be the most accessible and require the least amount of work. Although I just realized one of them is not going to reach. Anyway, so we'll start with this one over here. We might have to lengthen the other one. First thing you do is you put on the little protector thing. Oh boy, it's hard to do. It's getting dark. I can't see. I might have to quit. Okay, got on the little rubber protective boot, and see about getting our first bullet on here. Okay, well, we got that connector on there. Let's see if we can get it pushed up in there. I don't know what I just dropped. There we go. And then slide up our little rubber protective booty into the other rubber protective booty. Probably could heat that up, shrink it down some. There we go. One ground wire connected. Ha 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 ha. Okay, let's see if this other one will reach if we reroute it the way I did that one. Nope, we're gonna have to add to that one. Shoot. All right, let's try to get one more before it gets too dark. I'll route this one back up the same way. This wire actually has a chunk out of it down here, so I think I'm gonna put connectors down there. You know what, this is getting really hard to see. I know it may look brighter on the camera because I got lights in here, but for me to see, I got a lot of shadows and everything, so this is getting really tough. I'm gonna go ahead and call it for the night and start working on this again in the morning. Good morning. I did come back out last night in the darkness of my garage, and I finished the grounds on these taillights, so they're all connected now. Now we need to connect this brown wire, which has a cut in it right here, so I'm gonna have to cut it real short, to this power wire to the left turn signal, and the same thing on the right, but with this blue one and this black one, which we got plenty of length on. So that's the first thing we're going to do, and then the back end will be buttoned up. Okay, well, the back end is done. We have the taillights wired up. Of course, we haven't tested anything yet because we don't have a battery, but we have our turn signals wired up. We have our taillight wired up. All that's in here. Now we can move on to the middle section. From here back's done. From here up is done. Now we got to tackle this mess. So this is our battery box and our crossover air tube between the two carburetor air boxes. I've also mounted on here a new starter relay. Funny thing about this starter relay, it fits perfectly on here. I did look at starter relays specifically for this bike, and they were like 50 bucks a piece. So being the cheapskate I am, I did go on Amazon trying to find a universal starter relay that would work for my bike here without paying $50. And I found this one that actually fits for other Hondas, not specifically mine, but other Kawasaki's, etc., for $8. So I'll try to remember to put the part number up here in case you're looking for it. Yeah, it's a much cheaper alternative that fits like it was made for this application. So we got a starter relay on it, but we're not going to be wiring that yet. The original rectifier mounted here, I believe, in this area. The original voltage regulator here mounted on the bottom. So our new combination regulator rectifier is going to mount down here where the voltage regulator was. That's all good and great, except for these holes are too wide to match these holes, and these have threaded nuts in them. So we're going to take a file and kind of slot these to where we can mount it here. Okay, I got it filed out, but I had to take a little break after I got it filed out because the flange-headed bolts that the original regulator was mounted with will work with this rectifier because the flange is too close to the body. So I ran out and picked up a couple of socket head cap screws to replace them with. So now we can hopefully get this mounted. And if we're going to be this way, I think I want to mount it with the wires. Which way do I want the wires to come out? Do I want them to come out this side? We got to tie into this black wire here, and then the rest of them. Actually, no, there we go. It goes this way. All right. Yeah, we're going to make it come out the back because this plug here needs to come up to these wires here. So we got to make a harness in between here. So we'll come out the back side. This black wire needs to go in here. So we'll just remove it from the sleeve. I think, maybe. There we go. So now this one, this can come out the back, and this one can swing around front to get connected here. All right. So let's go ahead and see if we can get this mounted up now. I did get lock washers, but I'm not sure though I'll be able to use them again because it may make it too close to the body of the reg rack. Get that one started. There we go. All right, that's going to work. Now this is going to drop in through there. This wire needs to go around. I was hoping I could just plug it straight into the harness, but it doesn't look like I'm going to be able to do that. Yeah, it's going to be real tight. Now I'm going to have to make another connection for this wire here. So we'll have to tie this together. All right, so we can go ahead and put that in. But before we do that, our toolbox goes in there first. So let's put the toolbox back in there, and then we'll drop this in on top of it. Okay, we got the toolbox in here. Need to do a little work on the door because apparently I laid on the paint too thick and it does not want to close and open easily. We got to make that work better. But for now, we'll just kind of tap it there. And now let's see how this is going to fit. Oops. So we're going to just take and drop this whole assembly in. Trying to make sure we don't pinch any wires we need. Yeah, this is going to be tough because all this is in the way of the wires I need to get to. So we're going to have to go ahead and for now take off this starter relay. Give it another shot here. Okay, this wire. Make sure we can get to all the wires we're going to need to get to. It's going to be fun, but let's see. going to have to extend this up to here. Well, let's see, can we get this to bend over? Looks like maybe we'll be able to just put the plug on here directly. All right, that's good. Hopefully we can. Oh, that's not even up far enough yet. Oh, there's a bolt in the way, that's why. All right, I forgot. Hold on. There's a bolt down here that needs to go through here. So this will actually move the battery box forward. And then we got this little bolt that goes in. And I guess it's going to have to go over that cable because it won't go through there. This sleeve goes behind this tab here. And then there's a threaded nut on the other side of the battery box that this goes into. All right, our battery box is secure. These I just stuck in there. This bolt and this bolt, these actually hold on the air cleaners assemblies, so we just stuck those in there for now so we don't lose them. But had nothing to do with the wiring. Now, this goes up there. This goes to the black wire. The yellow and green ones we don't need, so I'm just going to cap them off and tape them up out of the way. And by cap them off, I'm just capping them off with tape. And I'm just going to tie it here to the battery cable. That should keep it out of the way and safe from rubbing, I guess. And this is the ground cable for the battery. And that will go up in here to connect to our battery. Now the Reg graciously came with a plug to match this, so I can actually tie it into my harness. Had whoever removed the rectifier from this thing actually just unclipped it, then the plug would have already been there and this would have been like clicked, done. But they didn't, and now I have this little tiny stub of area to work with to try to get these attached. I'm not bitter. Nope. Don't know why people hack up wiring like this, but I'm not bitter. Oh, come on, you're not going to work. This is going to suck if my strippers won't work on this. What's going on with my strippers? Okay, I figured out what was wrong with my strippers. This little brass knurl nut here had loosened up and let the locking block slip. But we're good now. We can strip. I went ahead, the battery died while I fixed that. And I got the first terminal on the yellow wire. So I'm going to throw you guys into time-lapse mode while I do the next ones. Okay, well, we got all our terminals on. We got to put them in our clip yet, but this is critical part here. We need to make sure we put them in the right order. So red goes to bottom left, bottom right is yellow, above the yellow, above the red is green, and pink is above the yellow. All right, and we have our plug, which will connect hopefully like, come on, go in there, come on. They're not all lined up. Oh, they're gonna be a bear to line up. Okay, come on, come on, come on, you can fit. Oh, we went outside that thing. This yellow one doesn't want to line up. I think I got it. Of course, I didn't get the clip in. There. Ha! There we go. All right. We got our Reg wired. I'm going to throw some tape on that real quick before we attempt to do the next one. Well, after digging around in my electrical component stash, I did find one single 2-pin connector. So we're going to take the end off of this one, get rid of this, put on this connector, and then put the other end right here on this little stubby piece of wire sticking out. It's going to be really fun. Just cut it off as long as it'll go. Get rid of that. All right. Just get all these connectors on, and then we'll be able to move to the next one. Okay, we got the easy one done. Now, the hard one. And it's hard because even though there's wire already sticking out, it's not in really good shape. It's very corroded and I don't really want to use it. But if I don't, this plug is just so short. I think I'm going to have to try to use this wiring that's already exposed. So I'm going to try to clean that up with some steel wool or something. I don't know how well this is going to work, but I think I'm going to have to give it a try. Just because of the length of this wire. I'm hoping it doesn't come back to bite me. It may. Fortunately, that's nothing critical. This is the wiring that controls the relay, which from the starter button up on the handlebar. So if it does fail, you know, we should be able to still start with Kickstarter. So let's just hope it doesn't come to that and this works. Alright. Oh, where's my connector? Okay, the good news is these should not matter. It's just a switch completion thing. This allows 12 volts to go through the magnetic side of the relay. So basically 12 volts goes in here, goes through the thing, the magnet activates, and it pulls in the switch for the straight power to the starter. So that's the good news there. Let's get these in. Oh, they went in, okay. Man, working with these little stubby things. There we go. All right, we did it. I'm gonna throw some tape around that, if I can. Whew, it's getting hard to work in that little tiny space. Now that will go in here and connect to, that'll connect up to our, what do you call this thing? And that'll connect up here to our relay. Like so. So our relay should work now. Now we do have to tie our power to one side of this relay, and then, where is it? There it is. This will come up and through to the other side, and that's our power down to the actual, oh freak, I can't think right now. Our power down to the actual starter. That'll go on and in there, and it looks like we were still going to have enough cable to do that. So apparently they cut this one right at the end, so if we get a new fitting, we should be able to put it on our starter. Meanwhile, I'm going to put our starter back on its bracket. I hope. There we go. What do we have left? We got to make a cable from our battery to our starter relay. We got to put an end on this cable, and then we have this cable here that will go to the positive side of our battery. And then here, there's supposed to be a 15 amp fuse to protect the wiring of the motorcycle. But before we start tackling that, I decided it was time for lunch. Turkey, pepper jack cheese, avocado spread that I made myself on a toasted whole multi-grain bun. Pretty darn good. All right. I'm going to go ahead and eat this. You don't have to watch me. And I'll get back with you after I'm done eating. Okay, so the next thing I'm going to tackle is this fuse. you can see here, it was just a glass fuse that went into this holder and right there. Now, I'm not going to use that. One, glass fuses are really hard to find on the road now. They're not everywhere. Most gas stations stock blade type fuses now. I know you can carry them, but that's still a problem. I'm going to be replacing it with this inline blade fuse. It's got a nice little cover on it to keep the weather out of it, and 15 amp fuse right in there. Quickly, easily be able to find on the road if you need them. I prefer these. So we're going to put this in line. Doesn't, I mean, I guess I could widen that out and fit it right there. Will the seat clear it? Oh, hang on, my meter's in the way. Yeah, the seat will clear it. So we will just end up putting it, bending these tabs apart a little bit and snapping it right in there. But the first thing we're going to do is cut the tape on these two pieces. Actually, it's not tape, that's a little piece of tubing. And it's almost already cut. It's tore. There we go. So we're just going to splice this in and locate our blade fuse right there where the original fuse was. We'll just pry these out to where they'll fit it. Okay. Do that for one side. Just do something like that. Might have to cut some of that off. That was pretty long. Cut that off. And cut that off. There we go. Come on. Okay. Okay, so we got our first splice all set up here. Again, I'm using these connectors with solder built into them, and you heat them to melt it all together. Okay, that's one. All right, now, actually it's gonna fit pretty good. I'm gonna need to bend that one out some. Oh, too much. Oh, shit. Oh, look at that. Looks like it was meant to be. Looks like it was made for that. Now, this was the battery isolator tray, whatever you want to call it, that went down in the bottom of this battery box. As you can see, it's in pretty bad shape. It is crumbling and breaking as I handle it. So it's absolutely pretty much useless at this point. However, I took my 3D printer and I loaded it up with some TPU, which is a rubbery type filament, and I made a replacement battery isolator box for it, whatever you want to call it. So I did buy a battery, and I made this before I bought this battery. Look at that, fits perfect. So this will go in here like so, and I don't want to start connecting things up yet, but we got our battery, we got our ground cable that'll connect here to the negative. This will go on here, but before we do that, so now we need to do two things before we make our final connections to the battery. One is I need to get it in for this so we can attach it to our starter here, and two, I need to make a heavy cable to run from the positive post here over to our main power on the starter relay that goes eventually to this cable and down to the starter to make it work. The problem there is I don't have the pieces I need to make these ends. I do have some heavy cable. This end would work, but it's bigger than the actual screw size on the battery, so I really don't want to use it. So I need to go get some cable ends so I can make the final connections and our wiring will be done. So I'm gonna go do some parts running and I'll be back with you when that's done. Okay, we're back. I got the ends I need. I've already gone ahead and put them on the terminals. So if you see the terminal here on the battery, I put it this way so it actually lines up with the terminal on the starter relay. And I did have to file down this side of the terminal so it would fit on there's a little lip on the battery here, and it was making it kick out. So I had to file it down a little bit so it would sit flush against the terminal. No big deal. Then I had to do the same thing on the terminals on the starter relay. I've got this one that's going to come up from the bottom. So the terminal is mounted like this on the starter relay for the starter cable to come up into here. Then on the top, I have the terminal pointed up so we can just connect with a short piece of cable here to here to put positive power to the starter relay. Then when the button is pushed, it should make this contact and connect bring in the magnetic switch in the relay to send power from here to the other terminal that's pointed down to go down into this cable. Now, since the positive terminal is up like this on that starter relay, and the one going out to the cable is like this area between them when they were mounted was very, very close. And I was afraid that if some vibrations or if they loosened, one or the other of the terminals may kind of bend over and they could actually touch one another. And I definitely didn't want that to happen, because that would just dead short my starter motor to the positive and it would just take off. You know, it wouldn't be you wouldn't be able to stop it. So you could burn up the starter, you could cause a fire, who knows what could happen. So to fix that, what I did was I filed down the inside of this one and the other side of this one, and I created like a good 1/4 inch gap. So they would have to move an awful lot in order to be able to touch one another. So because they're going to be like this, so I don't think they can even do it. It would probably have to almost turn it 90-degree angle in order for it to touch. So that's good. We got it all planned out. So let's go ahead and put our terminals on here. So I want to do this one first. And so I'm going to have to get in here and remove our modified terminal. And I just dropped the nut and the terminal. Off to a great start. Now you can see on this terminal that where the copper is showing, this is a this is a coated copper. But you can see here on this side where I've ground that down a lot thinner, so it won't touch that other terminal. The other one's the same way, but on the other side. Now, we want this terminal to be this way. We want to punch from this side so it's got a nice natural flow up to that. We won't have to twist the wire or anything. We don't want to put twisting tension on it. So we want to crimp it from this side here. And I know there's ways to do crimping DIY. You can cut a smaller nut in half and then hammer it together. But honestly, this crimper tool was only like 11, 12 bucks on Amazon. So I think long term, and I've got more cables to make anyway for my hot rod, so I think long term it's worth that investment to make this easier. And I had to build up a platform to hammer on, so hopefully it's sturdy enough to do that. And I did put my heat shrink sleeve already on there. Hopefully this will work. I'm worried about my stack of stuff here because I'm worried about it being not sturdy enough. But here goes nothing. And I was wise to be worried. I don't know if that's going to do it. Okay. All right. Now we got a good solid crimp on it. You can see where the indentation is on the top side. And then back here, you can see how it V's it into the back side of it. So we're good there. We need to take our heat shrink tube run it up to over the end of it. Now we've got one end out of 3 crimped and attached. We don't need this anymore because on this one, once we get our length need and cut and stripped, we can take these terminals off both ends and we can build this one out on the ground. We don't need to have to do it up here. Okay, so up here on our little short cable to the starter relay, we got one end already stripped. It's going to go down like that, and then our other end is going to be up here into this one. I need a little bit of room, a little bit of slop in this, but not a lot. So we're going to mark this to be our end. So we're going to cut this here, strip it back, and then we're going to crimp it. Okay, so you can see here how I made this cable with this terminal at 90 degrees to this one, so they can go from the starter relay up to the battery. You can also see where I was talking about how I ground down one side of the terminals so that on the starter relay so they wouldn't touch, and on the battery end so they would so it would fit into the little recessed area of the battery flush to the terminal. So let's get the more difficult end on here first, and that's the relay terminal. It's very difficult to get your fingers into this spot. Okay, now we can start putting our final connections to the battery. Oh, almost. I did notice this one, this terminal here is pretty bent. I think that's supposed to be a 90-degree piece of metal, so we got to straighten that out. I don't think this will be too hard to do. So now we can start making our final connections. We have this terminal here, this terminal here, and I'm going to add in at this time a plug for a battery tender. So we got 3 terminals to go on our positive side. Great. Let's try this again. Okay, let's put our fuse in place. And this also has a fuse on it. This is the terminal for the battery tender. So we have a fuse in line for that so we don't burn the motorcycle down while we're trying to charge it. Okay, well, we got all our cables in, and a couple things left to do. We need to put our battery strap on. I did buy a new one for this. Let's see how easy I can get this over there. Hopefully this fuse will be out of the way when I get it. Yeah, there we go. All right, and we got our terminal connector for our battery tender. We're just gonna tuck that over here on the other side of the battery. All that's looking pretty good. We've got our battery with our fuse. Everything's laid out here. Everything looks good. Taillights wiring's all tidied up and looking good. We've taped up and protected everything we can throughout the rest of the harness. And then up here we've done the same. And the same thing over here on the other side up into the headlight harness. Now, providing that everything is connected correctly, things should operate on this once I turn the keys. So now we're at the testing stage. Well, something's happening because our taillight or brake light is stuck on. I think it's the brake light stuck on, but I don't know why it would be on, because our switch is off. Oh, wait a minute. Oh, whoops, the key was on. I didn't mean for the key to be on. See if our light's off now. Okay, our light's off now. Okay, well, now we're on to the testing phase. I got scared for a second. I thought my key was off and when the light came on, I was like, uh-oh, something's drastically wrong. Anyway, we'll get to the testing. Okay, now we know we got a problem with this taillight already. I'm guessing one of the brake switches is stuck on. So taillight should come back on when I turn on power. Okay. I think that is the run position, and then this would be the yeah, it's on now. So the bike is in neutral, just in case this button here. Did you hear that? The starter works. All right. So now we know our starter relay repair was correct. We know our cable has power to the starter. We know my repair on this button and this switch worked. So all of that is good to go. Let's try left turn signal. Okay, we have no left turn signal. How about right? Nothing. Interesting. When we turn on our left turn signal, we do get a light up here on our tack. Something else that's not working is it's in neutral. So there should be the neutral light on, and it's not on. How about headlight? Hey, we got a low beam. How about a high beam? Well, it doesn't know if I can't really tell much difference, but there is a change, so there is a high and a low. So all that's working. When we put on our right turn signal, this light does not come on up here. So that could be a multitude of things. We could have all 4 bulbs burn out. We could have a bad flasher relay, so we got to figure out that. Let's go to the back and see what happens when we turn on our headlight. All right, so we do have a running light. Let's see if we operate the brake switch, what happens. Nothing. Did that flash? I can't tell about the front one. So I think this may be, even though that comes on with our headlight, I think our brake switch is still sticking. So I think that's not the tail light, that's the brake light. So I've got this screwdriver in the spark plug wire, and it's laying right next to this nut. So in here, if you can, I'm trying to get you a good angle. Hopefully, if it happens, you'll be able to see it. So I'm going to see if we can get a spark to jump. I'm not seeing a spark. All right, we got the spark plugs out now. I really don't expect any spark because probably at minimum the points need cleaned. But anyway, I'm going to try to I've got both spark plugs laid out like this to see if I get any spark. I'm not seeing any spark. That's all right. Okay, there's one more thing I need to check, and that's the horn. Horn works. All right, cool deal. That's where we're going to leave it for now on the wiring. Yeah, we got some electrical demons to chase out of it yet. Got to get our turn signals working. That could be bad grounds, could be bad bulbs, could be a bad flasher. There's a lot of things in that we need to check first. So we got to go through all that. Our starter works good. We don't know if our run off switch works or not. So everything else seems to be working good. The starter works. The button works. I was concerned about that. Horn works. The left turn, turn signals are probably going to be the biggest thing to fix now. And then figuring out which brake switch is stuck and on, and so we can get that configured. And I also noticed that our high beam indicator on our headlight shell is not coming on when that has the high beam on. So that's something else, although that's very, very minor. The neutral safety switch, again, minor, or not neutral safety switch, the neutral safety light, or the neutral dash light, whatever you want to call that thing. The light that comes on here when you're in neutral. Neutral indicator light, that's what it is. So anyway, that doesn't seem to be working. Again, minor. But yeah, other than that, everything seems to be good. There's no spark, but I was kind of expecting that. I figured at minimum I'm going to have to get in there and clean the points. So that's going to be coming up when we go to try to, when we get this to the point where we're going to go do a will it run for real this time. And that's going to be soon, but not immediate. There's some other things we need to do before we're ready to will it run. So in the meantime, thanks for watching if you are watching the Honda series. I know it's not getting a lot of traction on the channel, so I'm gonna have to jump back to the hot rod, I think, for a little bit and some skateboarding to get some people to stop unsubbing, because I've had some unsubs lately. Anyway, that's about it. So next video, I gotta do the carbs, and I actually have already started that. The carbs are soaking right now. Get them all cleaned up, so that'll be coming up. And I do have something planned for something small planned for the hot rod. But until then, YouTube, later.